Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength. Today I'm going to be making a video about the slack pull and wedge in the deadlift, specifically the sumo deadlift. Now, I wanted to clarify, I think I'm probably having a good bit of new subscribers at the moment, but most of my videos revolve around the sumo deadlift, specifically because small deviations, small improvements in your position probably make a bigger impact on the sumo than it does the conventional. Getting your hips just a little bit closer, rotating just a little bit more, can have a much bigger impact on the sumo total strength that you can have, more so than the conventional, right? We're not trying to necessarily find all these margins, work in the margins about getting your hips a little bit closer. In the conventional, it's just not gonna work quite the same way here. But all of the information that I have about pulling slack and creating tension and finding your good position, those things will still be true. But this video is going to mostly center around the sumo deadlift. So if you have not heard the terms slack pull and wedging or any of those kind of concepts, please go watch my How to Sumo Deadlift video. That's definitely gonna get you started. One of my quotes in the video was that slack pull, pulling slack, is the deadlift. And that's something that I really want to dive into today and really push that maybe not all, but most of the issues that people have on the deadlift can be solved by putting more focus, putting more emphasis around what happens as you're rotating, as you're creating tension. So many of my videos revolve around that. I'm not gonna beat the dead horse and talk too much about forward bands or things like that, but I do like that video because I think it helps better conceptualize how we need to be thinking about creating slack and leverage relative to the barbell. That video, I think, may be enlightening before watching this one, but either way, we're talking about the same process, and I think, hopefully, all of these videos together can probably click for a bunch of different people. So, this is a video that I've been wanting to make for a while. And luckily, I've been workshopping how to explain this a little bit with a great portion of my clients, really. And I think I've come up with a pretty good way to express the things that I want to say. And I think the main point, kind of the overarching point here, is that the aiming point, the target point that you should have in your head when you're imagining your sumo deadlift is that your starting position should be higher than what the barbell currently allows. So I'm gonna dive into that. But I'm gonna use pause deadlifts to demonstrate a lot of this. Originally, I actually had this video planned completely targeted around pause deadlifts, and I've kind of deviated away from that because I don't do a lot of pause deadlifts, and I'm gonna talk about the reasons why, but I do think that pause deadlifts are going to be a great way to demonstrate our points here, but I think that there's going to be some potential drawbacks in the pause deadlift that I'll highlight as well. So anyway, the main concept is that where the bar is on the floor should not be in your head where you are trying to create your starting position. It should be slightly higher. So all my videos, I talk about doing a top-down setup, and even in my How to Sumo Deadlift video, I talk about a tipping point to where after a certain point from the top-down setup, when you're getting your position to the barbell, it starts to make you a lot more crouched. It starts to require a lot more squatty position, a lot lower position. And that's where we really want to try to avoid. We want to try to stay above that position and then have our rotation targeted above that point, assuming that the barbell is going to come off the floor. So we're going to start demonstrating this. And you can see in my warm-ups that everything is starting, my setup and everything is assuming that I'm going to be able to create some movement from the barbell during my rotation. And the point here is that it's going to require a lot of force to be able to create this. That I'm not just going to be able to casually bring the barbell off the floor and create this position. I have an old video demonstrating how much effort, how much weight on the barbell it takes to actually get the bar to bend. And just from my videos, just looking at it, it's probably around 500-ish pounds for the barbell to have any noticeable bend. So I don't think that that means that you have to have 500 pounds on the barbell to be able to create this, because a lot of this space that we're gonna be creating is actually coming from your body. So with that little bit of flex that we get, and by the way, I actually have a video planned on deadlift bars, spoiler, I guess, here in a few weeks. The things that I'm saying here will apply to deadlift bars as well, just even more so dramatically compared to a power bar. So there is going to be a little bit of flex that we get from a power bar, more so with a deadlift bar. And by using the weight of the barbell, we can create more stretch, more tension in my body than the position that we're going to be able to create without those loads. And so hopefully with all of the videos that I'm showing, and I'll even use my 400 kilo deadlift from a few weeks ago, and look at how much tension, how much slack has come out of the bar before I've even finished my rotation. So the point here is that the process of me rotating into the barbell is the same process as me trying to get the barbell off the floor. So how do we create that? So when we're going through our process and using our top-down setup, we want to be able to create our slack from our arms, making them long and loose, and then reaching for the barbell, and then with that space that we created, actively work against it with our legs, pressing hard into the floor, and our upper body rotating aggressively against that. And we have to have the assumption that the barbell does have slack in it. And we have to have the assumption that my arms, my body has some room to give. And I think that those 2 points are kind of where the forward banded deadlift people kind of get messed up, is that they are trying to reduce and remove the slack that we have in our upper bodies. And I'm saying we want to use that slack to create a better position and then stabilize it. That we use the upper body to create a little bit more length, and then I'm actively working against it using my lats to create rigidity in my upper body against the weight of the barbell. And in these videos, we'll show kind of the difference here, that if I'm trying to create rigidity, specifically by squeezing my back or sitting down too low, and trying to get in a position with the barbell on the floor and create my position bottom up instead of top down, I'm never going to be able to create and replicate that perfect starting position that I can create by using these tactics. So the main point here is that we have to be able to find a good position that's actually realistic, right? But in my head, I'm imagining that I can start as far away from the barbell as I possibly can. I'm actively trying to visualize the shortest range of motion that I possibly can, and then try to believe that that's something that I can replicate when there's 400 kilos on the barbell. And that, I think, is where I think a lot of people have some disruptions between some of their lighter loads and some of their heaviest weights. That all of a sudden we start to anticipate that the barbell is going to be a little bit heavier, that it's going to take a little bit more effort to get off the floor. And we get a little bit more tentative, right? We kind of get a little bit tense in our arms, or we don't go as aggressively with our rotation. And I think the biggest thing here is that we lose the assumption that we're going to be able to create a better position than the barbell currently offers. And so that's the take-home message, that when you're going after this, when you're doing your rotation into the barbell, we should be working to stay as far away from the barbell as we can and create tension in that position and use the effort of rotating my upper body specifically. The rotation should be coming from pressing with my feet and pulling my upper body up and through, and that creates the tension and gets the barbell to come off the floor. So going back to the original point of the video, or the original topic of the video with pause deadlifts, my original topic was basically going to say that I don't care about really how low somebody is pausing their deadlift. And I see this a lot, is that people are critical that people are pausing the deadlift maybe too high off the floor. And I've taken a little bit of, a different stance with that. Because of all this, that for sure, pausing the deadlift too high does not add value, right? But we want to be able to blend the process of feeling our tension against the barbell and rotating and getting the barbell to come off the floor. Essentially, I'm trying to replicate the starting position that I have in my head and actually create that with my rotation and with my slack pull. So when I see people that are pausing the deadlift super low off the floor, sure, fine. But it kind of seems like a party trick to me. Like, how low can you actually pause the deadlift? And, I think that the argument there is that they're trying to, replicate their starting position as best as they possibly can. And I agree with that. But I'm trying to use the feelings that we get during that rotation and during creating the leverage and trying to pause in that position where I have that kind of mental image of what my best position can be. So if you're doing pause deadlifts and you're kind of losing position and you're getting it off the floor and then you're getting it to, mid shin, closer to the knee, and then pausing and just holding it when it gets easier, you're not doing it right. That is not, again, not to say that it's not going to add any value or make you stronger at all, but it's not going to assist in this way in helping you feel leverage and create tension and be very aggressive and take the slack out of your body and the barbell. So I do think that pause deadlifts are a super productive tool for being able to feel this if done correctly. But my experience with myself at times, I think I can go kind of short periods of time doing pause deadlifts before I start having negative effects with it. But with myself and a few other people, paused deadlifts sometimes make it difficult to keep having that aggressive slack pull. Whenever I know that I'm pausing, I tend to slow down my pace a little bit. And for me, I know that the things that I feel when I'm pulling my best require a lot of aggression. Not everyone pulls with that same style. And so I think if you're a little bit more smooth of a puller still doing these things, the pause deadlifts are great, they're perfect. And some people that pull very fast might do well slowing down a little bit. But for me, I think I get these benefits of feeling the slack pull and the rotation and everything during my warm-ups. I can feel it. But if I do them for too long or, getting it too heavy, I start to get a lot of those kind of negative habits of kind of anticipating the load too much and not letting my arms hang long enough. And actually, one of the more popular things that I think has been, popularized, become more common in recent years is more higher rep deadlifts. And kind of even before those specifically became popular, I had been having a lot of success, not necessarily with high rep deadlifts, but I would say more so high volume, kind of moderate rep range, moderate load. We'll make something up, like 5x5 at 75%. And I was having a lot of success with my deadlifts. And I've gone back to that. Heading into just Raw Nationals, I was doing a few singles, and then most of my back down work was sixes. And I've just recently had a lot of success in a little bit higher rep range. And so my thought right now is not necessarily that it's higher reps on their own that's helping me. I kind of have some thoughts there about how it's potentially helping my upper back and everything. But I think more than anything, some of these kind of moderate loads are helping me trust all of the things that I'm saying right here. Trust that I can get the bar moving, trust that I can rotate aggressively, and that I can create a better position than I'm currently able to do with the barbell on the floor. And if I spend too much time with heavier weights, especially throughout a single session, as I kind of start to become fatigued and maybe a little bit intimidated or that just my mental energy, I can't quite bring it in the same way, I think some of those issues that I mentioned with the pause deadlifts come back for me as I start to hesitate a little bit. I start to get a little bit too rigid. And while it may be great for my strength, it may sometimes move me in the wrong direction from a technique standpoint, where technique, especially in higher level sumo deadlifts, is paramount. It's the absolute biggest thing. And so if I'm able to find a process that helps me recreate all of the feel that I think really makes a big difference in my deadlift, and find rep ranges and percentages, things like that, that really make it show up, I've started leaning towards some of these higher rep ranges moderate intensities overall with doses of extremely high weights to be able to practice it. So that's important. We have to be able to have that in there. But the biggest thing here is just maintaining that assumption that you are going to be able to create a better position. And it all comes from staying away from the barbell, reaching, and then using that space that you created to rotate aggressively and make that process, make that space that you had, the whole process of making the barbell leave the floor. So maybe if you now watch this video and you go back and watch some of my other deadlift videos, hopefully it'll click better, because I think that this has been something, talking about pulling slack and rotating and all of that. I think a lot of my videos have kind of missed that point, that the process that we're using to move into the position that we want to be in should literally be the process that gets the bar coming off the floor. So if you watch my deadlifts, I'll play the 400 kilo deadlift again, maybe some other meat videos here in slow motion. If you watch when the barbell starts bending, it's bending before I'm actually pulling the weight. And that's on purpose. I am trying to create more space than is currently available to me by pulling the slack out of the barbell and pulling the slack out of my upper body, using my legs, creating tension, and that will create a much, much more reliable position. So if you did like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.